when it comes to this ticky tack stacking discipline, it's pure harassment, plain and simple.
The facts, dates, and events presented in this video are from the member's best recollection and may not be fully accurate. This video is intended for entertainment purposes only. Always consult with your local union about your rights and duties at your workplace. The opinions shared on this video are our own and do not necessarily represent my employer's positions, strategies, or opinions. All views shared are protected under the National Labor Relations Act.
What is going on, everybody? So today I have Phil Pleska, business agent out of Minnesota in local 346, and Greg Kerwood out of local 25 in Boston. And we're going to be talking about stacking discipline. I'm not going to lie, I could probably go on a 20-30 minute monologue. Just this stuff gets under my skin. I get so angry over this stuff, and it's because this ruins people's lives. And maybe some of you out there are listening and you're like, well, stacking plus discipline, what does that mean? I'll tell this story, and I think the story really dictates the definition of what my definition of stacking discipline is. So we had a member that, not out of my building, but somewhere else, we'll just say that. The company followed him, and he got a warning letter because he didn't use his flashers. The next day, they give him an intent to suspend for not using 3 points of contact. And then they give him an intent to term because he scanned an info notice twice. Well, this member, unfortunately, and I think many of you watching this understand this, seen it, whatever, but he's not as informed as everybody here is watching, right? I know a lot of people out there that go to the union meetings, they read the contract book, and they watch these videos. They get this is their job, this is their livelihood. But not everybody's like that. And he didn't know that he was supposed to file a grievance. Or maybe he forgot. You know, I'm not going to put this on the steward by any means, because us as stewards, we get overwhelmed. But this member never filed a grievance, and the company walked him out. His 10 years career at UPS is gone over something so minor. And you do this, the company will do this. Sometimes they'll do this as a tactic to maybe teach them a lesson, hold them out for a little while, and they'll bring them back. But it doesn't always end up that way. Not everybody's finances are the same way. A lot of people have issues going on. Hell, I know a lot of people, they lose their job here and they immediately start looking for somewhere else to work. They don't even worry about the panel process. So it's screwing with people's lives. I think we all have kind of stories to share about this and how to battle it. How do you deal with it? You know, this is a lot of pressure. I went through this firsthand, and basically it put me, this is actually kind of how I learned as much as I did, because I thought the company was going to fire me eventually. They just kept giving me intent to terms. I mean, I got an intent to term for losing the ink pen. I mean, one of my buddies got an intent to term because he was eating a pistachio while he was driving. The freaking company's so crazy, they brought his case to panel. So they wanted him to rent out a hotel room to fight this case of him eating a pistachio. I mean, this is crazy world we live in. Greg, I mean, I know you've been through it. I mean, what can you say? I mean, as far as like the stories you've been through, what you've seen, the craziness that this company does, I mean, what do you have to say about all this?
Well, I will say that, you know, this is part of the company's process. They don't use discipline for what it's designed to be used for, which is to change behavior. They use discipline as a threat, as a tool, what they believe will motivate people to do what they want, unquestioningly. And in order to do that, you know, they try to harbor every piece of discipline under the same umbrella. You know, everything is methods and procedures, and failure to follow instructions. You know, big umbrellas that they try to couch everything in. But that doesn't wash. Just cause requires that people have progressive discipline for the same offense. And so you can't say failure to use your blinker is methods and procedures, and not using 3 points of contact is methods and procedures, and therefore it's the same offense. It's not the same offense. You know, and the way that you combat that is, you know, by always putting on your grievance exactly what the offense was, so the company can't change it later, which they love to do. And, you know, always putting on your grievance that the company violated just cause. So when it comes time to have your hearing, you know, they have to make their case and explain how they feel that's the same infraction. because it isn't. And if it isn't, the house of cards comes tumbling down.
Phil, I mean, when it comes to the subject, like, do you have any stories to share, any personal experiences? What have you been seeing in your local when it comes to stacking discipline?
They're just looking to dot their I's and cross their T's with, any infraction they can possibly put on a member. And, there's a pile of stories that I could tell, but one of them that, ironically happened just the other day and ended today. I had a couple grievances come in regarding 2 part-time employees at the same hub. Both of them were late by minutes. The second guy was literally standing at the customer counter waiting to punch in. But they gave him warning letters, and our labor manager for the state of Minnesota reached out and said, hey, is this going to be grievance material every time we have disciplinary process? And I told him flat out, I said, if the member feels that they're violated, or it wasn't a warranted piece of discipline, or in the rights, so to speak, get your steward, go into the office, try to talk it out, go through the grievance procedure, and if you can't talk it out, file the grievance and have a local level hearing and try to get it worked out. An hour later, I received another email, and our steward informed me that both those warning letters had been rescinded, because they didn't want to go through the grievance process with the on those warning letters that were issued. So, I tell people to file, but that's just, the way I was taught to be a steward, and now as a business agent, I'm all about, holding the company accountable and responsible, so, if you feel like you've been violated, or, disciplinary process has been given to you, whether it be in the form of a talk with or a warning letter or what have you, there's a grievance procedure to follow, and I recommend following it.
Exactly. Some people at home they look at the guy that's being targeted, and maybe some people are looking at them and they're like, maybe they deserve it. They'll look at like, well, Jake's slow, or maybe he had this coming. Maybe there's a reason why management's targeting him. I mean, Greg, what do you have to say about the members that go around and just kind of point fingers? Instead of at management, they're pointing fingers at their own members.
I would say to them that you're probably next in line, so I wouldn't start throwing stones. If you work at UPS, you have a target on your back. It's just a matter of time or circumstance or when. We talked about this earlier, and you said that, some people think that they can put their heads down and come to work and bust their ass and they'll be fine. And I think that's a common thought, because perhaps the rest of the world works that way. But at UPS, you're in upside down land. And so if you think you're going to show up to work and do your job and put your head down and not say boo, and you'll be left alone, you're mistaken. All it's going to take is one situation, one instance, one supervisor that doesn't like you, one new manager who thinks that you've got an attitude, or whatever it is, or just you showed up late a couple of days, whatever, something that triggers it. Or they're just in a bad mood, and you're going to be that next target, and you're going to have to deal with this situation. And it's no one puts themselves into this kind of discipline. I mean, we have members that do some foolish stuff sometimes, but when it comes to this ticky-tack stacking discipline, it's pure harassment, plain and simple. And that's the only reason it exists. And no one puts themselves in that situation. It's the company's choice. They choose to run their business that way, and they're the ones that should bear the responsibility.
Now, Phil, you being a business agent, maybe you have a sight into things that we don't. But do you think that some of this discipline, this ticky-tack discipline, is coming from the higher ups, and they're putting that pressure on the center manager to force him to give discipline out?
Yeah, I do, and we're privileged as agents, to be behind some different walls and some different doors. But I always used to tell the last business agent or business manager that I worked for, you couldn't pay me enough to do your job. They say poop flows downhill. Well, where does it typically land? Usually in the business manager's lap, because he's running the center, or in my case, he was running 4 centers. So I think unfortunately at times, and I'm not on their side, but I think they have to do what they're told, just like we have to work as directed as Teamster members that, work for UPS. So I don't envy them, but at the same time, we have jobs to do as stewards and as agents, again, not to be repetitive, but to, hold the company accountable and responsible.
Now, there might be some people watching this right now that are going through this firsthand. I'm seeing this a lot lately where people are getting these stacked disciplines right now. And if you are in that position, I'm going to throw this to you, Phil. How should you handle yourself, and what should you be looking out for when you file?
First, I always tell my stewards, uh, make sure that you're looking out not just for full-time members but the part-time members as well, because typically your part-time members they don't understand, and then when stuff like that happens, I tell them, make sure you have a steward present, if it's just a talk with, or if we get to the grievance process, your stewards or the stewards that I work with are very well educated, and they know the contract. But I recommend to the stewards to recommend to them, grab a contract. Educate yourself. It's the best thing you can do to protect yourself is to know what kind of language is in that contract. And when in doubt, open it up to the national Article 37, and for the central region here, we talk about Article 17. Discharge and suspensions. Two of the bigger ones. But for me, it's all about education, and I just tell everybody, grab a contract and educate yourself.
Absolutely. And when it comes to discharge language and discipline, that's supplemental. So for everybody, it's a bit different. Greg, you've been through every contract known to man. I mean, how would you explain this to some of these guys?
Well, there are slight variations, certainly with cardinal infractions, but that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about, the stupid ticky-tack warning letter discipline. And, I can't emphasize enough because, people look at this sometimes, say, oh, that's garbage, who cares? It's not something to blow off. I mean, in New England, every warning letter is automatically protested, so we don't really have to deal with that. But in other places it's not. So get it on paper. Like as I said, put the nature right on the grievance, because the company will send the letter and it'll say methods and procedures. And so you are the one, and your steward is the one that have to have the record that no, it wasn't methods and procedures. It was failure to use the handrail, right? Or failure to put a signal on, or not to put your flashers on, or whatever it was. Because when you get further down the line and they're trying to stack that discipline, you need to be able to demonstrate, hold on a minute, these are completely different infractions. So take good notes, don't blow things off, get your grievances in a timely fashion, and make sure you're keeping track of exactly what they're doing. And as I said, their case is going to fall apart because it doesn't hold up to just cause. But if you don't have those things covered, you're at their mercy, because they'll just sit in the hearing and say, oh no, it was all the same thing. And if you don't have evidence that can prove otherwise, you're going to be in a difficult spot.
The other thing I'll add to that is to go ahead and make sure you put the correct dates and the correct articles on. I know that, for us, we fill out our own grievances, but make sure that you put the right things on there. One thing the company looks for is when they get that grievance turned in, if they're trying to get rid of you, is they're going to Z-scan it and look for mistakes and get you on those mistakes. And another thing I always tell people, once it's signed off, try to get your steward to send you a picture of it signed off, or get a copy of it signed off, or whatever, because we need to make sure that you get these filed on a timely manner. Like Greg just said, a lot of this, the company never really sees it. It usually, I literally had a binder at one point of just intent to terms, and they were waiting for me to make a mistake, in my opinion, to get rid of me. They knew they didn't have a case on me, and I can assume that everybody out here watching is the same way. And hell, this is just the environment you work in sometimes. I don't know what to say. It is stressful, and I'm sure we'll touch on this subject again in the future, but I just wanted to address it now because I know people are stressing about this right now. Anyways, that's all I got, everybody. I love you, and I will see you next time.